One of the most frequently asked questions that we get on our channels is, what about Japanese cards? Are those worth investing in? Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gym Leaders Podcast, where we talk all things Pokemon TCG, from investing to collecting to unboxing and really just all the fun. I'm Travis with TCG Funhouse.
And I'm ASX with ASX TCG. How is it going, everybody? I am super excited to talk about these Japanese cards today, investing in them.
Yes, so like I said in the very beginning, I get asked all the time if Japanese Pokemon cards are worth investing in. Perfect example, these two booster boxes I'm holding up right here. Japanese VMAX Climax, the newest Pokemon TCG release. And then I also have a 25th anniversary booster box right here as well, which I was able to get over on Amazon Japan. So we're going to talk about that as well, how you can get Japanese sealed product. And we're also going to discuss singles, vintage singles, modern singles, stuff like that, where we think they're going to end up in terms of long-term investing, which you guys know here on the TCG Funhouse channel, at least, we talk Pokemon investing all of the time and how to build amazing, like, Pokemon portfolios and collections and stuff like that. So is there room for Japanese? Who knows? But before we get into that, ASX, are you a Japanese collector? Tell me your experience with some Japanese Pokemon cards.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess if you want to go all the way back, I always had those random like 2 or 3 Japanese cards in my set all the way back in the day when it was still collecting base set. Didn't know how I got them by any means.
So they used to just show up. They used to just show up, I swear.
Exactly. But more recently, I've gotten them back into some of the Japanese cards a little bit here. I actually have a Japanese binder started.
Sweet.
In this binder, I got primarily Shiny Star V.
Great set.
And
Great
not all
set.
the cards either. You know, I just picked up this set off of one of my buddies who actually collected the full set of Shiny Star V, and he basically gave me all of his doubles. And
nice.
then as a nice little gift as well in there, also got a base set Venusaur as well. Hope you guys can see that. If you're listening as a podcast,
Beautiful
I
card.
promise you it's a base set Venusaur there. And then I got
is that a Digimon? What are you doing?
Exactly, right. But yeah, that's kind of the extent of my Japanese collection right now. But I would definitely love to collect more, especially like more on the vintage side of things, because it can be a little bit more affordable from what I've seen.
So that's one of the things that I want to talk about is the affordability of Japanese cards. Forever, Japanese cards, at least here in the States, right? So I'm strictly speaking from a buyer in the United States. So that means I'm buying most of my Japanese singles and product from English websites, right? Like eBay and Amazon, Mercari, right? Those types of places are where I get my Japanese product, and I am a pretty big Japanese collector, and unfortunately I have slowed down on my Japanese collecting because the prices have gone up tremendously, almost more so than they have like in the English, right? So we went through this scalping period, right? I do think we're coming to the end on this scalping period. I really do. Don't think we're quite there yet. I think we have some work to do still, and Pokemon still has some work to do to completely eliminate scalping, especially for those really popular sets like Celebrations. But the Japanese scene definitely fell victim to this scalping as well, and I'll give you a perfect example. I released a video, one of the most popular videos on my channel is how to buy Japanese cards in the United States. And it's almost unusable now. It's almost an unusable video because the tactics that I use, you still can use, but the prices are not nearly the same. But if you go back and watch that video, you were talking about Shiny Star V. Shiny Star V, right there, there's a picture of it as I'm scrolling through and I'm showing you how to order this stuff, was $50, 50 US dollars, and like $20 shipping. So you're looking at $70 for a Shiny Star V booster box, And on top of that, you can look at the Sword and Shield ones, like the Rebel Clash equivalent, the Darkness Ablaze equivalent. I don't remember their names right now. But all that stuff was available for like $40 a box. Now, prices went up significantly, to where even right now, if you go to Amazon Japan, and let's say you're looking for the Shiny Star V-Box, they have one up there right now for $77. So you're like, hey, that's actually really good. But the shipping is $71 as well. So It's basically twice the price, right? I was able to buy them for $70. Now they're like $140, $150. And I opened up easily 4 or 5 Shiny Star V-Boxes because it was such an awesome set. If you guys don't know, it's like Shining Fates. That's the equivalent of Shining Fates in the US, where the baby Shinies and full art Shinies and all that stuff came from. Now, as somebody who bought 5 or 6 boxes at $70, it was very hard to me to buy any Japanese booster boxes at $140, $150. So what do you think, ASX, of like the price hike on Japanese cards? Like overall, do you think the popularity spiked, or do you think it just got mixed in because people couldn't find English cards, so they were like, hey, let's go buy some Japanese cards? What do you think happened?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. Definitely a lot more people coming into the hobby, have some of that nostalgia maybe for some of those Japanese cards, that maybe they had randomly in their collection back in the day. But I do think, that it's, I'm so sorry. I totally lost my train of thought.
I think you did that last time too. You lost your train of thought last time too.
I get excited about talking about this topic. I'm sorry. What was your question again?
Well, what do you think the price hike was? Do you think people just went for Japanese because they couldn't find English, or do you think that they wanted the nostalgia driven, like you said, to like, hey, I'm going Japanese as well?
Yeah, no, and to your second point there, I think it was, because we couldn't find a lot of product. A lot of times, well, every time, the Japanese set always comes out before we get those cards in English. So I think, a lot of people, might have caught on to that as well. And we're like, well, if I can't find any sort of English cards in the stores around me or online or wherever, and I can find these Japanese cards, I'm going to go for that because I have that itch to open those packs, So I definitely think that is a big part of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's a little bit of both, right? And like I said, I'm actually really, really bummed. So prices have come down. That's why I'm holding this VMAX Climax box right in my hands right now, because I was able to actually buy some. It was at a price where I felt comfortable buying it. I ended up getting the VMAX Climax box for $65 plus $26 shipping. Now, that is a lot, right? You're looking at $90 or so. That still is more than I used to pay. But I bought 2 of them, and one's opened. Yes, I'm sassy. And then 25th anniversary, too. So I got 3 boxes, and they allow you to combine shipping over at Amazon Japan. So I ended up getting 3 total boxes and one $26 shipping charge. And that's one of the things that I will say. When you're buying from Japanese sellers, please make sure you're keeping an eye on the shipping costs, because it could completely make investing in Japanese Pokemon cards not worth it whatsoever. You're completely overpaying. And the reason why I'm going to say you're going to overpay is we're going to look at a card. We're going to look at a vintage Pokemon card right now, and we're going to do some price comparison here. Now, we're going to be looking at the Blaine's Charizard, which is one of the gym sets, Wizards of the Coast, back in the day. We're going to compare the English and the Japanese. So, Gym Challenge, Blaine's Charizard, over on TCG Player, the English version, in near mint condition, sells for an average of $200 to $250, okay? Now, that is the English version of the card. Now, go over to eBay, look for that same Blaine's Charizard in Japanese, right? Because it is kind of hard to get Japanese cards over on TCG Player. They are there. They do mark them as Japanese, but usually the prices are inflated. You can get much better deals on Japanese singles on eBay, like bar none. So the average price of a Japanese Blaine's Charizard ranges in between $50 and $75. So let's go ahead and take a look at that price point real quick. English, TCG Player, market price, Blaine's Charizard, $200, $250. Japanese, $50 to $75. That is an insane price difference. What are your thoughts on that price difference, man?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I've known that Japanese cards tend to be a little bit less, than our English cards over here. Um, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure why, because I feel like a lot of times, when you see Japanese cards, they're like way higher quality. Like the print quality is good, the
Yeah.
cut quality on them and everything is really good. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to hear that there's such a big gap on that price, because it's the exact
Crazy,
same
right?
card, just in a different language. If you're collecting for the artwork, it's the same artwork essentially. So that one's interesting. I'm surprised that it's such a huge gap. I didn't expect it to be like that.
So now we're going to talk about a more modern card. More modern card. A new modern card, right? So Celebrations, right? A set that we just talked about. 25th anniversary in Japanese is Celebrations in English. So the Charizard base set reprint in Celebrations has been falling in price significantly. We know that. But the Japanese one is actually more expensive than the English one, right? So we're looking at vintage cards and we're going, hey, the vintage card is significantly cheaper. Why is the modern card more expensive? And by more expensive, I mean the average Japanese 25th anniversary Charizard's going for about 140 to 135, to where, let's take a look at the market price on the Classic Collection Celebrations Charizard here for a second.
Oh,
Go
don't tell
ahead.
me.
Oh,
Don't tell me the
it's gonna
price.
come. It's keep coming down.
Oof.
It's coming down. It's almost at that point where I said it was gonna be. It's about $72.
Yeah.
So market price for the Charizard is about $72. So the Japanese version, which is much better looking, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure you guys go look it up. Look up the Japanese 25th anniversary Charizard. It looks significantly better. It's got gold borders, gold across. The hollow pattern is so much better. Go check it out. But it's basically twice the price, right? So why is vintage Japanese half the price, but the modern Japanese twice the price for the chase card? I don't know what's going on with Japanese, like, at all. This conversation is very, very hard to get around because one says yes, one says no. Particularly, I don't know what to say. Like, what do you think, man? Overall,
Yeah.
like the big question: would you invest in Japanese Pokemon cards, or would you only stick to English? I'm just going to ask you outright, and I want your response.
Um, I would probably myself probably just stick to English on an investment side of things. Now, if I'm talking about like being a collector, and like my favorite Pokemon Arcanine, like yeah, I'll go out, I'll collect some Japanese Pokemon cards that are Arcanine cards, or maybe some other fan favorites, or starters or something like that. But it's not necessarily something that I think I'm going to put a big investment into. Just because it is a lot easier to get English cards here in the US, obviously.
Right.
And there's going to be a more abundance of them, more for me to get out there and get. So I think English for me for right now. But I mean, looking at that VMAX Climax set, I don't know. Like I might have to get some boxes. I've been watching some openings on that set, and it just looks, it's like an absolute blast. It's almost like Celebrations, where it's a celebration every time you open it because you're always pulling something awesome.
Yep.
Sets like that make me think a little bit, maybe, especially with all those, alt art character rares and everything like that, that might be something, that I could see myself investing in. But kind of just like, I guess, the regular cards, or, like investing in booster boxes or something like that, I'm probably going to stick to the English side of things myself.
Yeah, I for stuff that gets shared, I think I'm going to completely agree with you, and I do think it is worth investing in like vintage Japanese just because it is so affordable. And you got to remember too, a lot of that stuff is older, right? So like base set in Japanese came out in 96 and it came out in 99 in English, right? So technically Japanese cards are significantly older when you're talking about vintage cards. And a lot of people don't know this, but vintage or Japanese is actually the regular card, right? It's the standard. It's the original. People think that like English cards are Pokemon and then Japanese are like an offshoot. Like, no, dude, like English are the offshoot. Japanese
Right.
is where Pokemon was created. And I think that's why it has always held like a special spot in my heart, because
Yeah.
this culture created this Pocket Monster game that I fell in love with, and seeing it's from its roots, right? From the birth of having the Japanese letters and the Japanese styles and all that stuff. Like, I love it. Doesn't really translate in terms of prices, though. So I like what you said when you said collecting. I'm going to collect my Japanese Pokemon cards. Investing probably should stick to English, which I agree with, and I'll give you a perfect example. The Blaine's Charizard I was just talking about, the reason why I brought that up in the beginning is because I bought in hard on Japanese Blaine's Charizard. So 2.5 years ago, when I got in to the Pokemon TCG, one of the things that got me back into it was vintage Japanese cards because they were so cheap. So cheap. It hit that nostalgia button for me. I was able to pick up 4 Japanese Blaine's Charizards between the prices of $14 and $16 in near mint condition. Now, even though that was 3 years ago, the card was still 20 years old, and the regular Blaine's Charizard was still going for probably $150 at the time, maybe more. So that was a huge discrepancy. You're looking at that point, a tenth of the price for Japanese cards. And that's what concerns me, is once this bubble bursts and people quit looking for the Japanese cards, because, the people that are going for the Japanese cards are the same people that are hunting Pokemon all the time, right? So when scalping came in, it's people were emptying the shelves, but then they were also trying to supplant their inventory with Japanese product, right? So I probably created part of the problem with my Japanese hunting video and how to buy Japanese cards. I probably fed the scalpers the information to just buy all this stuff from Amazon Japan. So then they were going, hey, you can't find stuff at your store. Buy the Japanese versions over on my website. And they were like, what? That's pretty cool. Yeah. So I'm kicking myself in the butt for making that video like every single day. It's like over 20,000 views or something. I don't even know where it's at, but like enough people saw it to basically ruin buying cards from Amazon Japan.
Oops.
But it is recovering. So, and right now, it does seem like a good investment though, right? But even though we're at that peak of that bubble, I bought 4 Charizards for $16 and now they're worth, $65. That's a pretty good increase over 2 to 3 years. I'm just concerned that when all those people leave the Pokemon game, the Japanese cards are going to come right back down to where they were before. Do you think the Japanese cards have staying power, or do you think that the same thing is going to happen? Good for collectors, not great for investors, because once 80% of the people leave the hobby, which is likely going to happen over the next 2 or 3 years with this big, huge influx of people that we got, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to stand by what I said and, think it's going to be more of a collector's thing than an investment thing. I do think that, prices are going to go down, maybe not as low as they were before, but not to the level where I think you'd be too happy with the investment that you made.
Right.
Especially on singles and stuff like that. Sealed product, could possibly be a little bit different because it is sealed product. Mm-hmm. But, if you're talking purely singles, I think it's, something that you want to, keep for your collection, but probably not something that you're going to be looking at in terms of an investment type thing, unless, Pokemon comes up with like an awesome movie or a new game or something and brings a whole bunch of people right back into it like they did here.
You mean like Legends Arceus?
Something like that. That would be awesome. Or like, Pokemon live action show or something would be really cool. But,
it's coming. It's coming.
I didn't want to say that I thought I heard something because I didn't want to be wrong, but I thought I heard something.
I heard something for sure. I think it was was it Amazon? Either Amazon or Netflix picked up a live action Pokemon series, very similar to Detective Pikachu. And we already know we're getting Detective Pikachu 2, right? So if they can continue their stride. So I made a comment earlier, right? I said 80%. That was a high number. I don't think 80% of people are going to leave. That was way out of proportion. But we're going to lose 25% of people inside the hobby right now. That's why singles are coming down, because people are selling out. People are selling out of the Pokemon TCG, which is a great time to buy for people who are staying in, like you and I. So that's why these Pokemon investment videos I've been doing, to me, are very important, because it's, yes, a lot of people are leaving and selling, but that's actually good for us. That's not a bad thing for us at all, because we were way inflated in the first place. Now, yes, I do think if they can find a way to stay mainstream by doing these live action movies, and they can get these bursts of popularity with Detective Pikachu 2, or I don't know, like maybe a Charizard based story or a Mew based story of all live action, you know what I mean? Actually give us something with Ash Ketchum, you know, or just something like that. Like, I really think people would be down for it. They're already the number one multimedia selling franchise in the entire world. If they can turn their cinema world into something like Marvel has, I can definitely see a continuation in what we have, or something like you said, like another Pokemon Go coming out, to where it basically changed how mobile gaming is done, right? It really was. It was a game that changed just gaming, period. It really did. But my final verdict for this, I'm going to go ahead and say, be careful when investing in Japanese cards. I would say that it's a last resort. Not a result. Last resort. If you're looking to invest in stuff, if you're getting a fantastic deal, I would go ahead and go for Japanese. But if you're paying market prices, I would stay away from it in terms of pure investment. Now, I love Japanese. I'm actually really excited that prices seem to be coming back down on Japanese sets, because I love opening them up so much. Especially these high gloss boxes where you get 2 holos, ultra rare, and in this case, almost like a CHR, a character rare, in at least half the packs, right? But in every pack you get 2 holos, a V, and a special reverse holo. So it's phenomenal. It's so good. It's so good. I'm actually excited. Do you plan on buying some more Japanese stuff to open up, or like what are you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, I'm super pumped about, VMAX Climax, and then eventually Brilliant Stars. So I would love to get my hands, on at least one or two boxes of VMAX Climax and open it up, because it's just, Pokemon's all about having fun. And it just looks like an absolute blast, opening up those packs. So yeah, I would definitely love to get some of those. And kind of add on to some of my vintage Japanese set as well. I got this base set Venusaur. I might as well look for a couple other base set cards to to add to the Japanese collection. I think that'd be pretty cool. But you're right. You got to be very careful about it. Know where you're getting it from. Make sure you check your shipping and all that stuff too. But yeah, I think a little bit here and there.
So, and the reason why I say, like, be careful is because I know, again, I get a lot of comments on my YouTube channels or in my Instagram, like, when they make announcements for the new sets, right? So, like, when Brilliant Star was announced and I was posting about it, a lot of people were like, oh my God, let me get a breath. I can't keep up. All these new sets, this, that, and the other thing. And people were like, oh, there's too much. Japanese is a whole different world. It's a whole different world. Yeah. So not only do you got to worry about Celebrations and Fusion Strike and Evolving Skies and Brilliant Star, but now you got 25th Anniversary Collection. Fusion Arts is the name of the Japanese set. Star Birth is the name of the Japanese set for Brilliant Star. And it's broken down in half-seas, really. You know what I mean? So, like, Evolving Skies was 2 sets. It was, like, Towering Perfection and Blue Sky Stream. So it's even more that you have to keep an eye on and what set is here and what set is there. And perfect example about not getting ripped off. So this box here, 25th Anniversary set. There is no Classic Collection cards in this box. None. What? Because they come inside of the promo packs that come with the booster box. Wow. And when I bought this, I knew that there was no promo packs inside. That's why I only paid $50 for this box, which is probably still too expensive, but I wanted one to open up because I'm just bougie like that. Now, if you were uneducated and you went to Amazon Japan and you loaded up on these 25th anniversary boxes thinking that you were going to get opportunities at reprints of base set Charizard and Blastoise and all that stuff, you're completely wrong. Completely wrong. It's only the box. So when you're shopping, make sure you find the ones that have pictures or say that you also get the promo packs, because if I were to go to like a store in Japan, I'd get a booster box and 4 promo packs. So what they were doing is they were buying all that stuff out, and then they were selling just the boxes because that's where the non-hits are. You see what I'm saying? You can still get the Golden Mew in here and that, but the Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, Goldstar Umbreon, those are all inside the promo packs. So they were all recouping their money by selling the booster boxes, opening the promo packs basically for free. They were getting all that stuff. So that's why you have to stay educated and stay up to date on everything in the Japanese TCG as well. But that being said, I would say go ahead and invest some in the vintage Japanese Pokemon game too, as long as the prices are right. Make sure your prices are right. Compare sold listings compared to all listings. Do your research before you just start willy-nilly buying, Japanese base set Charizards and Blastoises that are marked up, right? Because if we crash and singles continue to do this and vintage singles continue to do this, Japanese is also going to do the exact same thing, and probably even more so because less people are interested in them and they're harder to unload the stuff. So, yes. So my verdict is be careful. Do it, but be careful. ASX says do it for collecting, not necessarily investing. I think that's the perfect route that I think you should go for Japanese cards. Buy it if you want it. Don't put all your money and all your eggs in one basket for long-term growth portfolio on Japanese cards. Stick with English, much easier to unload. So, but yeah, that's it, man. That's it. That was a fun little podcast. It was a tough subject, right? Because
definitely.
There's been so much ebb and flow for the Japanese product over the past 3 years, even really in the past year, just like the regular Pokemon TCG stuff. But a lot less educated people on the Japanese side of things. And there's all this hype, like talk about FOMO.
Yeah.
FOMO is just as bad with Japanese because you get it early. It comes out first, right? So VMAX Climax, 30 of the CHRs in VMAX Climax are going to be inside Brilliant Star. We don't know which ones, but this is already out. We're still waiting for Brilliant Star for 2 more months, right? Starbirth comes out relatively soon. I'm not exactly sure, but much, much sooner than February 25th. So people are going to be buying that and selling that. And they're like, hey, don't want to wait for Brilliant Star? Buy my Japanese stuff. Just be careful with what you guys have going on. So, yes. Any last words on the Japanese side of things, ASX?
Yeah, just like I said, if you do decide to, invest into it a little bit, just make sure you're having fun with it. Make sure you're, buying cards that make you happy, happy to put in your collection. That's what I would say. Absolutely.
Absolutely. If you guys are watching here on YouTube, drop a sub down below. We post a new episode of the Gym Leaders Podcast every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern here on TCG Funhouse YouTube channel, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts, right? So that's awesome. Big shout out to ASX, by the way, for getting us up on all of the audio outlets. Kudos to you, sir. Kudos to you.
Thank you. It was tough. I had to go into some big meetings with some big, big wigs of each company, but we got it set up, guys. We got it set up so you can all, listen on your favorite platforms now.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Big deal. That's actually a big deal. I really appreciate it. All right, so before we get out of here, ASX, you know how it works, man. One last thing. One last thing.
I guess, take a look at my Venusaur one last time. It's an awesome card.
It is a pretty beautiful card. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. Thank you guys so much. Hope to see you around.